Hello, everyone. Tonight's class is on file management, and it's by Don. Don, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, John. Uh, if everybody is ready to go, we're going to just start with a little photo. If this is what your file folder looks like, uh, then I think it's time to clean it up. Let's get it looking like this versus this, okay? And we'll play around and have some fun, and we'll just kind of go through. We'll go through some tips and of course my screen sharing stopped. Hit that back up there. All right. What is file management? Does your show folder remind you of the black hole? You know, you added something, but just have no idea where you put it. It's just floating around somewhere out in your PC, and typing in the search bar to find it is becoming a pain in the butt. Well, I might be able to help you with a few tips. So what we want to do is we want to create a folder on our desktop, okay? And when I say create a folder, you just right click and create a folder. And you want to name this folder what's going to make sense to you. Okay, if you want to call it your xLights show folder, go ahead. Okay, if you want to give it a name, I don't care what you do, but make it so it is something that you will understand. So now that we have a show folder, what do we put in this folder? Well, we can add some subfolders. And when I say subfolders, xLights, as soon as you open xLights and you direct xLights to your show folder, xLights is automatically going to add some folders for you. And we'll pop it open. So xLights is asking me which show folder do we want to use. You've probably seen that on your desktop if it pops up. And so I'm just going to use this xLights show. And it's going to now open it up. So now I've created my show folder is in here. And if I save this, if I minimize this and I come back to my show folder that we just opened, look what it's given me. xLights has already included these folders for you. But we need to include some other folders that will help you as you move along your journey with your lights. And so I'm going to add a few folders, and we're just going to name them. And I want you to name these something that you're going to understand. So everybody's going to have some sequences. So I call mine sequences. And any sequence that I make or any sequence that I map and I'm going to use in my show is going to go in this folder right here. If I'm going to use some video, then I'm going to make a folder called video. And we're just going to make a few of these folders really quick for you, just so you can understand. One of the biggest folders that I like to have, because I hate searching on my computer for music. I can't stand it. I go into iTunes, I go into my music folders, I go into my documents, I go everywhere. So I physically create a folder for music, and then I'll drop my music folder and my files right in here. Any of my MP3 or waves that I'm going to use. Okay. Other folders that I'll make, if I'm going to use any pictures or images. I know what images mean to me, so I'm gonna call it images. And any picture I create or I use, I'm gonna put it in here. When we open xLights and we start creating some interesting, you're gonna see right here the XML network file and this RGB effects XML file. These are the two most important items that you will ever use. Once you add a controller, and we're just going to go through this real quick. I'm just going to use a Falcon controller. I'm just going to put in an F16. We're going to give it a quick IP address. and I'll name it up here. You don't have to name it, but you can. And you see these 3 check marks? I use them. We're going to save this. You're going to see that my show folder is on my desktop. It's my xLights show. When I come to the layout, I don't have any models at all. So when I create a model, we're just going to quickly grab this tree. And then I'm going to name this tree something that is going to make sense to me. And I like to call mine Mega Tree. It's easy, it's to the point. And now I can come in here and I can change my string count. I can change how many pixels. I can do anything in here that I want to do. Okay. But as I come up to the top, it'll show me that my tree is listed. What I see quite often are people will create a single line for a roof, but they won't name it. So here's what you're going to get is you're going to get a single line. Now I'm going to take a Control C and a Control V. We'll do that about 4 times. And now we've got single lines coming all over the place. And this one might become a vertical. We don't know what it'll be, but all of a sudden, these are all single lines that we have to kind of hunt down, and we don't know what they're for. So if you're going to create something, give them a name, okay? The reason that we're going to give them a name is that if you ever come into the Zoom room and somebody's helping you and they click on a prop and this has a single line, it'll drive guys nuts because you're trying to find out in a sequence which single line is this. If we go to create a sequence, we don't know if this is single line 1, 2, 3, or 4, basically. So let's call this guy, let's just make him, call him Gutter. Of course, I'm on my laptop, so we'll call him Gutter. Now we've created a gutter. We can call this guy Vertical Line 2. Vertical 2. You can call him Vertical 1. And I'm not doing anything really fancy here. I'm just making a few props for you guys to grasp, gals and guys. And we'll call him Vertical 1. And we can call him Gutter 2. I don't care, but make it so that it is really simple to understand. Now you've got yourself a show folder. Okay, of course, nothing's saved, right? And why didn't it save? Because we didn't hit the save button. Gutter, tab off and hit save. And there's your gutter line, right? Always tab off or just select another row, hit the save, and now they're going to start to save for you. Okay, we've got vertical 2. And gutter 2. All right, so now we have everything saved here. Okay, so now what we're going to do, go back to the controllers, the IP address, and we're going to tab off of that. And I don't know why it's giving me a red go there. Well, that's because I didn't put a dot here, that's why. There we are. We'll try that again. And then it's going to ask me to save this one. We're going to save it. I'm not going to get into the visualizer and where to put props. That's not what I'm doing, okay? What I'm doing is showing you how to set up your folders. Now, when we close xLights out, we're going to close xLights out completely. Now, what I'm going to do is everybody says, well, you know what? I do a Christmas show and I do a Halloween show and I do a Veterans Day show and I do a Valentine's Day show. Hey, that's fantastic. That's great. Let's take this folder. Let's just copy that folder. Okay. Let's put this here. I'm going to paste it. It's going to ask me for a different name. And there it is there. So there's the copy. I'm going to rename this folder. And it'll give me So I'm going to call this one Halloween. Halloween. Okay. Now, and I can do another paste. And everything's going, oh man, look, just all of a sudden, what's going on? I'm going to rename this guy. And we'll call this Veterans Day. Okay, so now what I have done is when I open xLights up, what you're going to see is when I go into my xLights show folder, my props will still be there. And so there's the xLights show folder, and there's the props. Okay, so now when I come back to the controllers, I can change that permanently, and I can come to my desktop, and I can come to my Halloween show. Now watch the layout. Very important. We still have the tree. Okay, I don't want these verticals. I'm going to delete that model. I'm going to delete this model. And we're going to actually add a prop in here. And I might just add a couple. I don't know what we'll add. Anything Halloween. And I'm not picking any vendor specific. I'm just throwing some stuff in here. So here's some tombstones. We're going to throw that tombstone in here. And we'll just drop it in. Okay, so now we have a tombstone. Okay, and it's a Boscoia Chromostone 1. So if you're happy with that name, feel free to use it. I like things short and simple. I'm just going to call it Tombstone. Okay, and now I'm going to hit the Control-C, the Control and a Control-V. Give me this 1 sec. Control-C, Control 1, 2, 3, and it's already listed them for me in order. Tombstone 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to my controller page. And now we're going to go and we're going to change. And I'm going to come into my Veterans Day show folder. And again, you're going to see that I've got the same props that I have in here for Christmas. So we're going to delete that model. We're going to delete this model. The chances are that I probably will have my gutter lines up. Some people use them permanent year round. So you can, I just leave those. But if we were going to add another prop in here for our, and I don't know who has a, oh, Jackie, you got anything down here, Jackie? What do you got? Halloween, USA. Here's military. So let's just take a military and let's take the battle cross with no tags, okay? And I don't know whose prop this is. Like I say, I'm going to punch it in there. So it's the GE battle cross, no tags, okay? So I just might call it battle cross. And I'll save it. And we'll just make a few more of them. And they're already in order. And you can drag these to wherever you want to. And you've got yourself a really good looking, now we'll just align those down at the bottom and everything's good enough, and I'll save that. Now, when I come back to the controller page, if I come back into change permanently and I come to my desktop, I've just, in less than 5 minutes, we've just created 3 show folders. There's now my Christmas layout. So I can start working on that one. And my Halloween. xLights saves your models, and there's your Halloween. And of course, the last one that we did was the Veterans Day. Come into the layout, and there's your Veterans Day. So you just created 3 quick show folders, okay? And I'm going to go back to the Christmas one. And now we're going to take in this, and if you look at each folder that we've created, each folder has an image, has music, sequences, your videos, whatever you want to use in that particular show. So I've got a music folder here, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy this. We're just going to go Carol of the Bells, and I'll paste it over here. And I think there it is up here. So again, file management. See how it says 01, Carol of the Bells? When I drop this into the music folder, I'm going to rename it. And the reason that I'm going to rename it is and this is either my OCD, I don't care, but I hate that 01 in front of there. And the reason being is if you get rid of the 01, xLights will put everything in alphabetical order for you. But sometimes you can get 3 or 4 songs that have 01 in front of them. And then again, you're scrolling up and down like a madman trying to find your music. As we come into xLights now, I'm going to create a new musical sequence really quickly. And it's already going to take now up here, this is not my show folder. So I need to come into here and I need to come into the xLights show folder. I'm going to come into my music folder. I'm going to one click on there and we're going to select that. And there's the music for that particular folder. Where am I going to save this sequence once I start creating some effects and I create a sequence and I do all of that? Where do I save it? Here's your save button. And it's automatically going to take us into my xLights show folder. But I want to save it in my sequence folder. So I'm just going to double click that and I'm going to hit the save button. I can close this sequence out. Keep in mind, I didn't do anything to the sequence. And when I open my show folder, I've now got a sequence that is showing me Carol of the Bells. And as you get into a lot of sequences over the years, I'm going to open my show. This is my show folder that I use when I sequence. I add beats to this, and I can delete them when I'm done with them. There's downloaded faces in here. There are, here's my Easter folder. I've just dragged it into my show folder, didn't matter. I've got some effects presets that I use. I've got images, all kinds of images that I use, and that's where I put them. So when I'm looking for items, and you can see that all of my songs don't have numbers in front of them. And that's just some of them. That's not all of them. Here's the patriotic, when I do patriotic sequences, and there's sequences in there. So if there's anything that I can recommend to anybody, it's just file management is very important. So you're not looking all over your computer, wondering where to go and what to do with it. I think this just makes it real simple for everybody. At this stage, I'm just going to, we've added, so to highlight, create a folder in your desktop, name it, and name it something that's going to be something that you will relate to. It doesn't have to be what I call it or anybody in the Zoom room calls it. It's what makes sense to you. Create subfolders with specific names that you will understand. Again, I like images. Some people will use pictures. Who cares? You have to know what it is. Add things in your subfolders and put them where they need to go. If you get an MP3, put it in your music folder. If you get a video, put it in your video folder. If you're going to use shaders, right, get a shaders folder. It'll come in handy. And remember, xLights automatically creates folders for you as soon as you open xLights. You'll have a backup folder. You'll have an xscheduled data folder. It'll create a key bindings folder, a file that you can edit. It'll create a network XML file. And don't forget about the RGB effects file. And the last two are the meat of the folder, okay? That network folder and that RGB effects XML file folder, those are the meat of your program. Without these, you'll have nothing. So once you create a layout and add your controllers, you want to make sure that you save these. And I use an external hard drive. And the reason that I use it is just in case my PC dies. I've got it on my external hard drive. I get a new computer, I can plug it in. I have all of my sequences, all of my music, all of my images, everything is there. I can't stress that enough. Backup, backup, backup. And there's many backup programs out there. My preference is a terabyte drive that I use, and it's an external one. I plug it in and unplug it, and it works for me. So find something that will work for you and stay with it. I don't really have a whole bunch of other things to really go over. The main idea of this was to help people create a show folder that's easy to understand. I've helped in the Zoom room for many years, and it's frustrating when you're trying to help somebody and they've got their sequence that they just created, and it's in a document, and their music is in a download, and their images are in their C drive, and your xLight show folder is God knows who's where. It's on my brother's computer, and he's playing video games down in the basement. So keep it all together, and hopefully this will help you. There's no need to go on any further with this. I just wanted to give you a brief highlight of what you can do and kind of how to do it. So hopefully that helps everybody.
Anybody have any questions for Don?
I do.
Yes, I do too.
You did an excellent job of showing us where to put things and how to make things go where they're supposed to go. At some point, we have to delete a sequence, and we've got shaders in one folder and images in another, and video in another, and they're all kind of related to that sequence. And there's a lot of other bits and pieces of sequences in those folders as well. How do you delete a sequence and get rid of everything that goes along with it?
Okay, let me just share my screen real quick for you. And I'll come back to my desktop. So what happens is, you know what, actually, I can actually delete a few in my show folder here. Okay, so here's some sequences. And I have, let's just have a look here. Let's get rid of, where am I working here? Sure, the Highwayman Circle of Life. Hallelujah. Probably the wrong folder to go into. Let me try a different folder. Let's try the one we just did. Now, actually here, I'll come into this one. Okay, I want to take the Highwayman out. So all I'm going to do is, if I want to get rid of a sequence, I'm going to take this sequence, which is the F sequence, FSEQ file. I'm going to take that XBKP file. And I'm going to take that file. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to hit delete. And they're gone. And I don't have to worry about the shaders that went with them, because these shaders, very possible that some of these shaders I'm using in other sequences. So I want to keep those shaders. I don't really ever want to delete my shaders. I'm okay with keeping them in there. But as for your question on the sequence, yes, that's how you get rid of it. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
So you've got images that you downloaded for that sequence that are in your image file, but and you just kind of leave those there?
I'm going to leave those there, Joel, because sometimes when I sequence, especially if I'm using a Santa Claus or a dancing reindeer, I might use those images in another sequence. So it takes a long time to hunt down some of those images, and some of them can be really cool. So I try not to delete them. I may use them in the future, and if I don't, it's not going to take up a lot of space on my computer.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay, Don, I've got a question in reference to your sequence folder. When you were showing all the different sequences that you have,
Mhm.
it's beneficial to create a separate folder for each song that you're doing, like song 1, song 2, in your sequence folder, or do you just leave them all? Go ahead.
I leave all of mine in the folder, and they come up alphabetically, so I'll know where they're at. If I'm looking for one, I can just go hunt one and down. Now, when I'm especially if I'm using the Pi and everything else, I want to keep all of my sequences in one easy spot. I can upload them. They're going to grab them. It's easy to do. And even with the X schedule, then you can come in here and you can pick your sequences that you're going to use. I very rarely, and I've never done that. I've kept all of my sequences right here in this sequence folder. I don't create another folder. And I have seen this. I have seen people do this. And they'll call them, they will name them this. They name them finished sequences, right? And I don't know, finished sequences. I've seen that folder. Okay, that doesn't do anything for me. My finished sequences are right here. They're done. I know what sequences I'm working on. I don't need to have one that says finished sequences, but that's me. That's not to say that you cannot do that. If you want to do that, go ahead. But just keep them where you know they're going to be at, and keep them in your show folder.
Okay. Well, let me go a deeper dive into that. Can you go back to your screenshot and go into your sequences?
Sure can. There you go.
Okay. So what I'm saying is it good to make a separate folder in your sequences? And let's say Circle of Life, you put those 3 into a folder that's Circle of Life, and another folder that says Hallelujah. And then those 3 files are in the Hallelujah folder that are located in the sequence inside the sequences folder.
Okay, David, you can do that if you want to. It's an extra when you go to save your sequence in here, then it's an extra. Let's just open one up, and so here's Carol of the Bells. And so what I'm going to show you is it's an extra folder that we have to make. And I'm just going to quickly come into this folder because I think I know where you're going with it.
Okay.
Okay. And I just want to make sure. So we're going to call this Carol of the Bells, right? This is what you're thinking.
Right.
Carol of the Bells. And then you're going to drag that up there, and you're going to drag this guy up there, right?
Correct.
Okay. So now we've got that. So now when we come back to xLights, so when we, and here, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do something real crazy. I'm just going to drop this on there, and then we're going to save it. And now the question is did it save it to that folder? So when I save as, I'm coming into sequences, see where it saved it here? I have to do another step and save it in here now and open this. Or I can come back and take this now and drag it up. But it's an extra step. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
When I say it's an extra step, right? So I to me, I just drag these out of the and I'll leave them. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put it here and paste it, and I'll just get rid of that because I don't need that. That's just an extra step. And again, it can be very confusing for a lot of people. And I totally get what you're saying.
Okay.
Is that people have created other folders inside their sequence folder with Carol of the Bells, and then you've got let's go out of here, and I'll come into this one with this one, because you're going to have many. You're going to have Circle of Life, Hallelujah, Jingle Bells. So if I'm working on my Jingle Bell sequence and I've got them in a folder and I forget to save it to that folder. It's a two-step process to save it to that folder, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Where this is a one step. And everybody says to me, well, I can't remember what sequence I'm working on. You know what? If you haven't listened to the song for 50 times and you haven't got it written down to which song you're working on, piece of paper and a pen, write it down. I'm working on Jingle Bells. It's easy, but that's the way I do it. That it's not to say that it's wrong. If you want to do that and take those extra steps, then you can do that. But
Okay.
sometimes it can mess up your show folder.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Hey, Don, you have another question in there. How do I manage two show folders at the same time? Example given Halloween and Christmas, especially when I'm still working on models, submodels, layouts, and even controller mapping in the different holidays.
Okay. Let me come into here. Okay. How do you manage two show folders at the same time? Okay. So I was just showing you the do I have to duplicate any and all changes in each show? Well, if you're and this was from Kevin. Okay, Kevin.
Yes.
So Kevin, when I'm working on two show folders, so I've got xLights open, and this is my Christmas folder. Okay. And so in my Christmas folder, I might add some arches here, and I might add some candy canes over here, and so once I get my show folder all set up and they're all good to go, this is my Christmas folder. So I can take a star or a high definition prop. We can take the showstopper snowflake, which has many submodels, and I can add all of that into here. This Christmas show folder will always stay the same for me. If I want to take, now let's just say that you wanted to use, and I'm just going to drop it in here. We're going to come down here, and I think it's in Jackie in the snowflakes. Is it the SS? There it is. So let's drop this in here, okay? So there it is now, and I know that I'm coming down here. So again, here's all of the great, and I'm gonna name it because I just want it as a showstopper snowflake. I don't like all the numbers in front of it. That's me. If I come down here, here's all the models, all the submodels right here, and they're all in here. Okay. Let's say I make some changes to this submodel, and I want to use, let's just say, we make one change in this particular prop, and I want to use that in my Halloween folder. Well, I can right click on this, and let me just get rid of this. I can right click on this, so we can just export this. Oh, what is going on here? Try that. Let's export my export xLights model right there. Okay. And I can just drop that on my desktop, and I can save it. And now when I come back into my controller page, and I want that prop in my Halloween layout, I can come in here now instead of hitting the drop down area where it says create a new download, you're going to hit the import, and we're just going to drop this, and I'm going to come to my desktop, and down here is the showstopper flake, and there it is, and it'll have all of the submodels, and if you notice, even the name is there. Okay, I'm hoping that answered your question. I'm not sure if it did or not, but feel free to let me know if that helped you.
No, that was good. That's the way I've been doing it. I just was wondering if there was a shortcut to doing that, because I'm adding a bunch of submodels like that, and
Right.
trying to figure out, like, if I've got one sequence that has a PPD wreath in it and
Yeah.
what I want, and it doesn't have the snowflake, which I have.
Yes.
then I'm adding a submodel, but then I got to go into my Halloween show, export it, re-import the submodel into that one. And I
Right.
just want to make sure there wasn't a better way if I was working too hard, so that's good. Thanks.
There is a shortcut for that. If you go
Okay.
into your show that you want to import into, right click on the layout and import controllers, models, or something. I forget exactly what it says.
Mhm.
And then you could use your RGB effects from the other one. So Don, I don't know if you want to show your screen and we could show them what it is. But there is another way where you could import directly without the need to do an export.
Okay.
Can I add, if it wasn't clear, you can have a Christmas folder and a Halloween folder, and they both have different RGB effects files in them. So the Christmas would have the Christmas layout in the RGB effects file, and the controller settings in the network file. And then the Halloween would have an RGB effects, which would be the layout for Halloween, and the networks for Halloween. Does that make
Absolutely
sense?
correct. Yep. Absolutely correct. Yes.
I mean, that's how I do it. I have a
Yep.
Christmas, I have multiple folders because I sequence like Don does. And we have multiple folders, and each one of them has its own layout relative to what we're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that's kind of what I'm doing too. I have sort of an abbreviated
Yeah.
version for Halloween to set up like half my house.
Yeah.
And then I maintain the full display for Christmas and I set up the other half. And so that's what I was trying to manage across. So that does help. Thanks.
Yeah.
Don, did you show how you can pull a model in from another show folder? Sorry,
no,
if you did, I apologize.
no,
No, you missed it.
I did not do that. It was more,
So if
when
you were
it's
to create submodels in your Halloween, how could you quickly get that into your Christmas one? You could pull in that submodel, just that change, by right clicking on your layout.
yes. So I leave that up to you guys to do that stuff. I just wanted to go from, and I know that everybody who has helped everybody in this, who helps in here, this is what we see when we help people. That's where we want to get to when we help people, so that we can now we know where their folders are, and we can say, go here, go here, go here. We don't want to go, oh, lift up that telephone because that piece of red paper right there, I'm pretty sure that's where the music file is. We don't know where your stuff is, and we don't care. It doesn't matter to us. But when we're helping anybody in here, if they have a little bit of organizational skills, it will solve your problems and easy to help you. Just easy peasy, man. Any other questions while I'm here? That's too easy. Everybody's got their show folders looking fantastic then.
No, you just did a dynamite job. It was awesome. Thank you.
Just another thought. Somebody was talking about deleting files. I prefer to set up an obsolete file or folder and throw my ones that I'm not going to use in there, because somewhere along the line I'll probably reuse them.
That's where Don, I find that's where the terabyte drive comes in handy for me. I like it. I like things neat and clean, but I'm just OCD with my xLights stuff. I mean, if you were to come and look in my garage, don't worry about that. We won't go there. But when it comes,
I just find if I delete them, they're gone forever. But if I put them somewhere out of the way in a folder, I just name obsolete.
Absolutely.
And I can go in there and look for them again and may reuse them somewhere down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if it makes sense to you, then that's the easiest part, right?
Yeah.
I want to thank you, Don. That was a decent class, and hopefully a few people have learned how to do a little bit better file structure and all this.
Well, hopefully they do, and if they don't, well, good luck to you guys in the Zoom room this fall. it's easy to help people, and it was my pleasure. I'm glad you guys could give me some time, and hopefully we help some people. And good luck to everybody with their shows this year.
Thank you.